And the next is Senator Warner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I again want to welcome our witnesses. I want to step back for one moment, and we've got differences, but I want to commend Chair Powell, Secretary Mnuchin, and frankly, members of this committee. I think we rose to the occasion back with the first couple of CARES Acts. We made historic investments. I think history will treat us well. I appreciate Ranking Member I and the chair and others were in a number of sessions with the secretary. The approach we took, I think we desperately need to get back to that approach. I've never seen a bigger disconnect between the stock market and the real economy than right now. I also want to echo what Senator Scott and Senator Menendez have said, and want to thank them for being part of this Jobs and Neighborhood Assistance Act that the Secretary referenced. I want to thank the chair and the ranking member as well for their willingness to work on this legislation. This would take billions of unallocated funds from the CARES Act and directly invest into MDIs and CDFIs, which the Secretary explained would dramatically leverage those dollars and help minority businesses that, as Senator Scott has so accurately pointed out, really have been disproportionately hurt. 420,000 Black-owned businesses shut down, and we can and must do better. And Chair Powell, I know we've gone back and forth on 13.3 on this. I get there, but I would argue, I know you said earlier in the week in your testimony that you were concerned about Main Street going smaller below 250 and the Fed's capacity to deal literally with hundreds of thousands, if not millions of loans. I would argue the way to deal with that, or at least one tool to deal with that, would be the direct equity infusion into those MDIs and CDFIs. That's goal and purpose is to lend to these smaller institutions. You wouldn't have to necessarily grapple with all the individual loans, but you could make these kind of, I think, investments and Fed support programs for these institutions that service that community. And I, again, just really am very, very hopeful that we're going to come to an agreement and make that additional COVID relief package. I do want to get to a question, but I guess the question I'll start with for Chair Powell is, your two predecessors, a series of both liberal and conservative economists came forward, said we need to make substantial stimulus investment that is in the trillions of dollars. I echo my Democratic colleagues that when the majority leader put forward a plan that was 1/3 of the size of what even the Trump administration suggested, that was not a good faith effort. I would strongly urge all of my colleagues that we ought to not break. We ought to get another COVID package out. It is essential. People in my state are hurting. I agree with Senator Sass. We need to go ahead and give the Secretary the presumption on those loans, 150,000 and under, that they can be presumed to be grants and really make that form shorter. But Secretary Powell, can you address again this issue that we desperately need this larger relief, and that targeted relief does not mean small. It just means we need to target to those most effective. Could you address that?
Sure. So again, I'll leave the details. It's not appropriate for me to have express a view on the particular details of that, but I would say that the recovery we've had so far owes in significant degree to the CARES Act and the support that Congress and provided in conjunction with the administration. And I think while the economy has been doing better than expected, I think there is downside risk to that if there is no further fiscal support. The people there are still something like 11 million people whose payroll jobs they've not gotten their jobs back. Those people are able to spend now because of the checks that they got and because of the unemployment insurance that they got, the enhanced unemployment insurance. There's downside risk to the economy probably coming if some form of that support doesn't continue.
I guess what I would ask, and I know I'm down to 35 seconds, I'd ask both you, Mr. Chairman, or Chairman Powell and Secretary Mnuchin, is the risks to the economy long-term greater or less if we undershoot versus overshoot? I'd ask you to simply say, should we understimulate or overstimulate when we're at this critical point on the margin recognized?
Again, I would just say we're going to have to. We will come back to a place where we need to get the U.S. federal government on a sustainable fiscal path. But again, I wouldn't prioritize that now when we're in the middle of a pandemic.
Secretary Mnuchin, I know I'm over time.
What I would say is forget the long term. The issue is now, and I would just say some is better than none. So I would encourage, again, bipartisan support. And again, let me also recognize this committee and the great work they did. And Chairman Crapo, if you and the ranking member and other members want to sit down, I'd be willing to come here anytime to continue to work with you.
Thank you. Senator Cotton.